What's up, guys? Now, UFC 246 just wrapped up, and it was a pretty good card. Decent card all the way around. Some really good finishes. Most of the fights were pretty fun, except the co-main event was a little bit lackluster, to say the least. But we're going to start with that main event. Conor McGregor TKOs Donald Cerrone in 40 seconds. In 40 seconds of the fight. What a way to kickstart 2020. And what a way to make a comeback. And what a way to shut up the doubters and make the definitive claim that you are one of the best 155ers in the world. For sure, right? Nobody was able to beat down Cerrone the way he did. Besides, I would say, like RDA. Cerrone had no chance, and he was dropped, stunned, outworked in the clinch, which is somewhere that I thought Cerrone would definitely have a major advantage. I mean, looking at Conor McGregor's fights, he normally doesn't do exceptionally well in the clinch, especially against Nate Diaz and a little bit against Khabib. He was never really that effective like he was against Cerrone. I would say Cerrone is a lot more dangerous than Nate and Khabib in the clinch, which shows Conor McGregor's progression in his game. He is not lying, he's not exaggerating when he's saying that he is only getting better. And he definitely looked hungry, definitely looked ready, definitely performed, and looked really powerful as well as big. He was noticeably bigger than he was against Nate Diaz, which was also at 170. And he looked so strong and powerful. From the shoulder strikes that busted up Cerrone, the head kick landing with the toes enough to rock Cerrone out of his world. That is something you don't see every day. I mean, you can go to the Taekwondo gyms, you can go watch Taekwondo fighters, karate fighters. I mean, landing with the toes like that, you gotta generate some huge amount of power to hurt your opponent with a head kick connecting with your toes. And Donald Cerrone just never got going in the fight. He tried the clinch, he got outworked there, he tried the kick afterward, got blocked easily, didn't land one strike in the entire fight, only threw one strike in the entire fight, and just got shut down immediately. I saw a lot around the MMA community, the fans, everybody agreed that Conor McGregor was most likely going to win very early in the fight, latest like second round. I don't even think any of us expected a 47-second TKO in the way he went about it. A lot of people thought he was going to use his boxing a lot more. Look at all the training footages and all the sparring sessions and everything he was putting out. And he didn't really use much of it. There were a couple left hands, there were a couple setups, there were a couple angles he took, right? That uppercut came in play again, but he still kept that very similar sideways stance and didn't need to change up anything. It was just a very simplistic fight for Conor McGregor, and once that nose got busted up, it looked like Cerrone was out of the fight. And a very similar thing happened when Darren Till also busted up Cerrone's nose, and Cerrone was out of that fight as well. The damage you take there, man, like Cowboy said afterward, it can disorientate you. And how Conor came out very quickly after he landed those shoulder strikes, it was tough for Cerrone to get back into the fight, right? The only other time I've ever seen Cerrone get shut down so fast was against RDA in the rematch, right? And that was his only title fight in his entire career. He has like 34 fights in the UFC. He had a lot of fights in WEC as well. There is some correlation to big fights and Cerrone not performing. He said before this fight that he didn't know which Cerrone's going to come out, but he was very positive that that narrative was not true. But think about it. What were his worst fights in his career? His title fight against RDA and the biggest profile fight against Conor McGregor, and he got just shut out in both of them. But at the end of the day, it was a great performance from Conor McGregor, and I am very excited to see how he goes forward in his career, who he's going to be fighting next. And that's the big thing now. That's a little bit more interesting than, the fight itself. I've been seeing around as well that a lot of people were talking more about who he's going to fight after than what is going to happen in this fight, as a lot of people believe that Conor was going to win. But the more interesting was, who is the big test afterward? Think about it. Jorge Masvidal, Justin Gaethje, Tony Ferguson. Those are some very competitive matchups and very anticipated matchups with a lot of violence, I guess you would say, or a lot of action involved. Then you also have the Khabib and Kamaru Usman, which I don't think should be happening. I know Dana White afterward said that that's the fight to make. Conor versus Khabib, especially if Khabib beats Tony Ferguson. I don't like it yet. I want to see Conor fight either Masvidal or Justin Gaethje before that, because Masvidal is the big profile fight in the welterweight division, and it's a very interesting stylistic collision, can be promoted through the roof. And then you have Justin Gaethje, which is for the rightful number one contender spot. Kamaru Usman, I don't even think that should ever happen. That's I know Conor believes he could be Kamaru Usman, but I can say with a lot of confidence that Usman should be held far away from Conor McGregor. That is one of the absolute worst fights, not even just in the welterweight or the lightweight divisions, pound for pound, throughout all weight classes, looking at all the styles. Usman has one of the most difficult styles for Conor McGregor. without the size, without the power, without the reach, without the height, without the athleticism, without the chin, without the toughness, without that immigrant mentality. Usman's style alone is just really tough for Conor McGregor to get by. Add all the other factors, and it's just really hard to even like sanction a fight like that unless Conor could really prove himself throughout the welterweight division, beating guys like maybe Stephen Thompson and Colby Covington. If he could beat Colby Covington, he silences all doubters that he can go and fight Kamaru Usman, right? But the Khabib fight is the fight that the UFC really wants to make. And here's the other thing. Conor wants to be active. Khabib and Tony are fighting in April. That fight is most likely not going to be someone getting out of there unscathed. I think even if Khabib wins, I think he's going to get beat up a little bit. Tony Ferguson's probably going to get beat up a little bit. Maybe one of them is going to get injured in the fight because you know how they are. And you're looking at probably Khabib or Tony fighting at the end of the year after. So you're going to go from Conor McGregor wanting to fight at least 3 times this year to fighting twice this year, if that. So Conor, he was looking at the March date, but I know that Adesanya is going to be fighting Romero on that date. Maybe he still takes that spot. Maybe he looks at the calendar, sees like something in June or something like that, and has a fight with Masvidal or has a fight with Justin Gaethje, which I believe are the only fights that people will say, but what about Nate Diaz? Nate Diaz is coming off a loss to Masvidal, and he is like quote-unquote owed a fight with Masvidal and McGregor. I think Conor versus Jorge should happen before Nate is put into that place against either of them. But man, I just don't like the Khabib thing. It really bothers me a bit. I love the fight. I like to see the rematch. Conor looks really good. He looks really powerful. He looks really strong, motivated, all that stuff. Is that enough to beat Khabib? He probably will perform a lot better, right? I anticipated a different kind of Conor McGregor that fought Khabib that night. A different way to go about it, a different game plan. And maybe if he even changes up the game plan, he definitely has a shot to beat Khabib. Now, does that mean he will beat Khabib? We don't know. Does that mean he has a better chance to beat Khabib? I don't think so. I think Khabib has a much better chance. Maybe 7 out of 10 fights he will beat Conor McGregor. But that's not even the issue here. The issue is Conor's fighting at 170 against Donald Cerrone, and off of that win, he gets an immediate title shot at 155, where there is guys like Justin Gaethje, who's on a 3-fight win streak, all knockouts, also just knocked out Donald Cerrone in spectacular fashion, and he's just going to get jumped over, and it's mainly because of the casual fans that want to see Conor versus Khabib. It's all about the money at the end of the day, and we understand that that will attract Conor every single time, especially if he's coming off a win. But these days, you never know. I mean, you got Romero coming off 2 losses, you got Jose Aldo coming off 2 losses, getting title shots and stuff, so if Conor even lost tonight, he probably would have a better claim these days to get a title shot, right? And you will have Justin Gaethje just waiting, right? He already deserves kind of a title shot by default. I understand he doesn't have the best resume out of all fighters throughout weight classes to earn a title shot. You know, he's not like the next Tony Ferguson when it comes to his long win streak. But look at everybody else. Nobody has the resume right now that Justin Gaethje has. A lot of people are coming off losses. A lot of people only come for like 1 or 2 wins. And the others are just too low in the rankings. They haven't beat those top elite fighters yet. You can only compare Justin Gaethje now to Conor McGregor, and Conor's coming off 1 win against the guy that Justin Gaethje just knocked out. And if Conor leapfrogs Gaethje, now he has to sit out for over a year, probably until he gets a title shot. And what's he going to do? Fight 2-3 times? He's going to get into that Tony Ferguson status of just cleaning out the division before he gets the title shot. And that's kind of bothering. You know, even if I go and watch Conor versus Khabib, I'm going to feel guilty about it. The only one at the end of the day is going to be able to shut that down is Khabib himself, who has said that he won't give Conor another title shot. There's speculation that, you know, Dana is saying that the fact that Khabib hates Conor, he's going to take that fight. But here's the thing, just like Dana acknowledged, Khabib never turns down a fight. But he's never hated anybody before that he has fought besides Conor McGregor. So will that be turned on its head? Will it be the fact that he hates Conor, he won't even give him a rematch? I see that as a more likely situation. I see him as like, you got to do what I did. You got to do what Tony does just because I don't like you. You know, I'm not going to give you a title shot until you do what I did and go through like a 10-win streak before you get a title shot. If Khabib lives up to his word, he is the only one that's going to be able to shut that whole talk down and just fight the next contenders, which is something he has been saying ever since he was champion. He said, as a champion, I'm going to fight the next contender. I'm going to fight the next in line. And that will 100% be Justin Gaethje. And I don't see anything that can happen to Khabib. What are they going to do, strip him? If they strip him, nothing changes. He already beat Conor. Now, if this was another contender and Khabib refuses to fight him and he never fought him before, that's a little bit different. We saw him annihilate Conor McGregor. He's undefeated and he's the champion. He's one of the greatest fighters of all time. if he just gets stripped or something like that happens to him because he refuses to fight Conor because, maybe it generates so much money, that would be the reason for all of it. Nothing changes. Khabib is going to retire very soon. He has millions upon millions of dollars. He's extremely rich. He's very popular. He's very powerful outside of fighting. And he has a huge fan base, hardcore fan base to himself that are so loyal to him. It won't change a thing. And even hardcore MMA fans know the truth. And many casual fans will be taken back by the whole thing. Be like, why would they strip Khabib? Because Khabib didn't want to fight Conor. Khabib is scared will be the narrative. Not even casual fans will be gullible enough to believe such a thing after they saw him completely dismantle Conor McGregor. So that is why I'm saying the best fight to make for all parties is probably Conor versus Justin Gaethje, to be honest here. Because as much as I want to see Conor versus Jorge Masvidal, and trust me, I'd rather see that fight than any other involving Conor McGregor right now. Like, more than Justin Gaethje, more than Tony Ferguson, more than Nate Diaz 3, definitely more than Khabib, definitely more than Kamaru Usman. Jorge and Conor is such a great fight. I would really want to see it, right? But Jorge is the number one contender for Kamaru Usman. And even if Jorge doesn't fight Conor now, is for sure going to get that fight with Jorge Masvidal later. Unless Jorge just gets completely shut out and dominated by Kamaru Usman. Everybody just forgets about Masvidal now. That's a little bit different. But I have a really good feeling, and especially if Jorge does go and beat Kamaru Usman, Conor is going to be extremely motivated to fight Jorge Masvidal for the 170 belt. So that's why I think right now. I think Conor versus Justin Gaethje is the best fight to make. I think that should happen soon in the next few months because Conor didn't even get hit. Doesn't seem like he's injured. And Gaethje's waiting. Take out Gaethje, nobody could deny your title shot. Nobody can. He earned it. He's next in line. He gets the title shot. And that leaves Jorge Masvidal to fight Kamaru Usman. And that leaves Tony Ferguson and Khabib to whatever happened in that fight. Whoever gets injured, whoever comes out of that fight beaten up, they can probably heal after. And then Conor can wait for that process and then fight for that belt later in the year. And as for Donald Cerrone, going back to 155 is a must, I believe. And a fight I'd really like to see next is maybe a rematch with him and Anthony Pettis because Pettis is just not really performing that well at lightweight. I think the rematch will be pretty fun, and it's between two fighters who have been in the game for a very long time, so that's a fight I personally really like to see next. If not that, the loser of Paul Felder versus Dan Hooker would be a good fight as well. And now we go to the co-main event. Holly Holm defeats Raquel Pennington by unanimous decision, 30-27 on all scorecards. Not really much to say about this fight, to be honest here. Holly Holm looked really strong. She surprised me with her clinch strength. I mean, we know Raquel Pennington's a very strong fighter. She completely manhandled Miesha Tate in the clinch before. Had a wicked bulldog choke earlier in her career. She's extremely strong, right? And Holly Holm just pushed her up against the cage and just held her there. I know for sure the ref should have broken that up multiple times. Nothing was happening. Most of the fight was against the cage rather than in the center of the octagon with distance where they both like to strike with each other. And Holly Holm just won by landing a few more strikes and just holding against the cage. There's really nothing else that happened. And just not a really good showing for Holly Holm or Raquel Pennington in my opinion as to get a next title shot against Amanda Nunes if Nunes wants to stick around and get some rematches under her belt. But then again, Holly Holm is 38 years old, and she's probably really close to retirement, to be honest here. She's had multiple title shots. I don't know anybody else besides maybe Uriah Faber that has gotten more title shots than Holly Holm, and that's mainly because of the lack of talent or how much of a shallow division the bantamweight division has always been, and featherweight as well. As for Holly Holm, she's the number 3 ranked contender. Rematch of GDR makes the most sense. If not that, get the fight booked again with Aspen Ladd and have that fight go on. I personally like to see the rematch with GDR. I do favor GDR in that fight as well. But, it's more fan-friendly, I believe. GDR brings the fight to you, as does Aspen Ladd, but Ladd is just a little bit too slow with the footwork, and Holly Holm could just probably run circles around her. GDR will put the fight to her and not allow this clinch work game plan to go on. And as for Raquel Pennington, coming off a loss, I think her versus Caitlin Vieira would be a good one. And then we go to Alexei Olenek defeating Maurice Green by submission 4 minutes and 38 seconds of the second round. This is a very good fight. So it looked like Green had the far superior striking ability, but Olenek is just so weird, man. He just throws looping punches. You see that uppercut he throws? He brings his arm down in front of him, directly in the center in front of him, and just throws it up. It's so weird, man. He's fighting like some fighting game character that was incomplete. But those kind of shots can land on anybody because they're just so awkward, and the angles that they come from with the 80-inch reach that he has can be pretty hard to deal with offensively. But Green, once he missed that head kick, that's where he got put into trouble. He threw the head kick. He's 6'7", Olenek 6'2". That's a big gap in height. and Oleinik just ducked it slightly and clinched up with Green as Green rotated from the momentum of the kick, and then Green went for the Kimura. Now, I understand Green is a pretty good submission artist. He's young in his career. He's not going to be on the same level as Oleinik. And that is a big reason why, he shouldn't be going for the Kimura, because you shouldn't be wanting to go into the ground. When you snatch up the Kimura in the clinch and the opponent has a body lock on you, yes, you can break the grip. But 9 times out of 10, every time I see it in MMA, and usually even in training, you're going to go to the ground. You're pretty much telling your opponent, I'm going to go to the ground with you, but I'm going to threaten you with this submission if you take me down. And you do not want to tell Oleinik that. So Oleinik just drags him to the ground, actually grabbed onto the cage to help himself circle around Green, eventually gets on top, and eventually gets that scarf hold choke. When I see it, it looks like it's really hard to submit someone with it, right? I never got put into it. I never put it onto someone. I never even see it in the gym. But Oleinik has multiple wins due to scarf hold chokes. And Green was able to hold on, fight right through it. And at the end of the first round, it looked like he was getting really deep because he started kicking with his feet. Second round came. Oleinik seemed to blow out his arms a bit. Looked really defenseless on the feet, gassing out, and almost got head kicked, right? He just blocked it with one arm, just put his arm in front of him. It could have broken his arm if Green really snapped into it. But the fight eventually gets on the ground again, and Green went for some triangle chokes. Nothing was really getting that close, but then Oleinik eventually gets that armbar, and Green did something very interesting where he put his leg in between Oleinik's head and where his arm was being extended, so it kind of fills an empty space, right? And Oleinik needs that space open so he can extend Green's arm even more, enough to the point where he can submit him. But eventually Green, I gotta look back at it, I don't know if he kicked out of that position or Oleinik did something, I gotta look back at it, but Green's leg got out of position and then the empty space was given up. And that's when Oleinik was able to submit Maurice Green with the armbar. So it was a great submission win by Oleinik. He's one of the, if not the best submission artist in the heavyweight division. There's Verdum as well, of course. And that's the fight to make. Oleinik versus Fabricio Verdum, who is the real king of submissions in the heavyweight division. And as for Maurice Green, he has talent, right? He has promise. He's very young in this game in terms of fighting experience. I mean, he only 12 fights professionally, and he's fighting a guy with over 70 fights. That's probably more than the combination of all of Maurice Green's opponents combined. And whoever Maurice Green's going to fight next has to be someone probably outside the top 15, right? Maybe even Tai Tuivasa or something like that, Let's go to one of the most impressive performances of the night, and that is Diego Ferreira defeating Anthony Pettis by submission in the second round. Now, I know Dustin Poirier kind of submitted Anthony Pettis. It wasn't due to like some purposeful submission to make Anthony Pettis tap. It was more he had a body triangle, turned over, Anthony Pettis turned the other way, and then the pressure just snapped one of Pettis' ribs, and that's what caused him to tap. This was a little bit different, right? Getting the rear naked choke on purpose, out grappling Anthony Pettis to do it, and that's submitting him. Diego Ferreira is the first guy to do that to Anthony Pettis. Not only beat him overall in the striking, yes, he got tagged here and here, it wasn't too powerful of punches that Pettis was connecting with, but Ferreira was walking him down, using that very strange entry of constantly switching, right? Anthony Pettis wants to take the opposite stance so he can kick you on the open side. So Diego Ferreira was switching to throw off the kicking angles, as well as lifting his knee to block the kicks just in case. And Pettis had no way to throw kicks. He wasn't even throwing kicks at all because of this. And that put Ferreira in a huge advantage in this fight, because now he's going to use his boxing to back up Pettis to the cage, drive that takedown in, try to get it to the ground. I'll grapple him because he was very confident in his BJJ compared to Pettis. And that's pretty much it. It was a masterful game plan, perfect game plan. Out scrambling, out positioning on the ground, just made Pettis look helpless more than anybody I've ever seen before. I mean, Pettis has gone to the ground with many fighters in his career, many really good grapplers, man, and nobody did this to Pettis the way Ferreira did. I am super impressed, and I'm keeping a very close eye on this guy. I mean, not only defeating Mirbek Taisimov and Rustam Khabilov, who are amazing fighters, easily can be anywhere in the top 15, not only beating those guys the way he did, but also being Anthony Pettis the way he did. This guy's way above his rank. Definitely should be fighting one of the top 10 fighters. And another thing about Diego Ferreira that's really interesting is he has a very intriguing skill set to compete with someone like Khabib, right? If he has this high level of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu to complete school Pettis in every position, does he have the level of grappling enough to even threaten Khabib all over the place? I would really like to see him fight the winner of Charles Oliveira and Kevin Lee, to be honest, because those guys are really good grapplers as well. Diego Ferreira has striking proficiency enough to even match either of those two, and that just combines for a very compelling fight. And as for Anthony Pettis, like I said, Donald Cerrone would probably be a really good fight. And then we go to Roxanne Modafferi defeating Macy Barber by 30-27 and then 130-26. Nothing really surprising about this fight besides the fact that Macy Barber injured herself in the fight somehow. I mean, the knee just popped out. It was a freak injury. But even in that first round, Modafferi was kind of lighting up Barber a bit. I won't say light up is probably too strong, but she was tagging Barber. Landing the cross was just a big weapon for Modafferi. Getting good positions on Barber. Barber showing no head movement just like usual. In the end, it showed that Barber couldn't really get that onslaught going or get that physicality that I thought she was going to be able to do. Right, I thought before this fight that Barber eventually be too strong and too powerful, even if she's going to get outclassed here and there, because I did say that Modafferi is easily the more skilled fighter, easily a more technical fighter all around. Even in the striking, Barber has a physicality that I've seen before Modafferi get knocked out for. Right, Modafferi got power bombed in The Ultimate Fighter, and that never really leaves my mind when I saw it. And I thought maybe Barber can be able to explode and use her strength in ways that can stifle the technical approach of Modafferi. But at the end of the day, man, I gotta listen to myself. I've said it before, I should go with the fighter with the more skills, or have the better approach in fights, and the better experience, and all of that goes to Modafferi. Skills win fights most of the time. And I understand a lot of people are bummed out about this because Barber got injured, and we've seen in her last fight against JJ Aldridge, who was also kind of lighting her up in the first round. Barber came back and finished her because she just amped up the tenacity of the fight. She wasn't able to do that in this one, most likely because of that injury, but she was even getting tagged in the second round before the injury as well. I mean, she got caught by a straight right, I believe. The jab, leaning away from it, seemed to pop out the left knee. So it was a good performance by Roxanne Modafferi. I mean, the most experienced female fighter in MMA right now, fighting one of the least experienced fighters. It just showed, man, the betting odds are just insane. Unacceptable. 10-1 favorite? What? 10-1 favorite for Macy Barber against Roxanne Modafferi? Man, that should never be the case, especially if the favorite is going to be a fighter with less than 10 fights professionally. That should never happen. And I am happy for anybody who cashed out on this fight. Right? If you listen to my prediction and you got the sense that Modafferi was going to be too skilled and too experienced, and notice when I was mentioning the odds, I'm just really glad if you guys cashed out on this one. So who these two should be fighting next? So Modafferi's number 7. She just beat the number 9, Barber. There's a lot of fights open. There's Joanne Calderwood. That'd be a good one for Modafferi. I think Modafferi's like 2 wins, 1 more win until a title shot. And Joanne Calderwood does bring some interesting skills to that fight, especially striking, which Modafferi is going to need to come up against. I know she fought Antonina, who is Valentina's sister, and that's the closest you're going to get to someone like Valentina, right, in terms of striking. But maybe someone like Calderwood as well, just to get a different feeling of a different Muay Thai style. That would be pretty good for Modafferi. And as for Macy Barber, really anybody. The one I want to see is Paige Van Zandt. Barber's probably going to be out for a long time. Van Zandt just doesn't want to fight her. It's just weird, but that's the fight I'd like to see. I saw parts of the Yusuf versus Fili fight. I didn't watch the whole thing. I go back and watch it all. I heard it's a really good fight. I heard it one of the best fights in the entire night. I know Fili was taking him down, and Yusuf's never been taken down before. So that was interesting, and I saw early in the first round where Yusuf was just tagging Fili with that right hand. The timing on that right hand of his is just insane. And I also do remember that the commentators are kind of wondering why Fili started having success on Yusuf later in the fight when Fili took the southpaw position. It was like I said in my prediction video, Yusuf for some reason has a tough time against southpaws, and I gotta catch up on all the other fights. So it's a good night of fights, and I hope you guys had an amazing night. I got sick. I don't know what happened during the fights, and then kind of cleared it up after. Not even like 10 minutes before I started recording, I don't know what was going on, man. So I hope you guys enjoyed the reactions, and if you did, make sure to thumbs up. If you enjoyed my content, make sure to subscribe. And my next video is going to be the podcast, which is going to come out early next week. I had the recording of the podcast finished, but because some things came up, I had to postpone it a bit. And I'm just going to do a new whole recording. I'm going to have you guys ask more questions, especially coming off UFC 246, of course. And I've been just so busy, man. So busy. So tomorrow, technically today, Sunday, I really want to spend time with the family, which I don't normally get to do. It's just crazy when I just think about all the stuff I'm doing. School, training, YouTube, moving, just so much stuff. I mean, so many responsibilities, so many stuff I never really had to handle before at one time. So yeah. Today I'm going to just spend time with the family Sunday, and then podcast will probably come out by Tuesday, so be looking for that. And I have a lot of stuff coming up, man. I'm thinking about Discord stuff. I'm thinking about Reddit stuff. Maybe even venture into Twitch. Like, there's a bunch of things I really want to expand on and just seize opportunities on, you know. I hear you guys, I see you guys, I always listen to the feedback I get from you. It has definitely helped grow this channel. I'm probably one of the few YouTubers across the entire platform that listens this much and just interacts with the viewers. There's a lot of stuff I'm working on, merchandise as well. That got a little bit weird because the artwork was actually getting completed, but then I just got ghosted. So if anybody else that's really good at t-shirt designs and merchandise designs and all that stuff, hit me up. I really appreciate it. My email is on my YouTube page under the About. You can hit me up on Twitter to talk to me about it. So again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.